Hello Dave is ad-free thanks to all you guys supporting the channel on Patreon. All income from donations and Patreon are used directly to upgrade cameras, light, microphones, software, things that allow me to produce more and better looking videos for you guys. All Patreons also get a discount at the merch store, and you have the option to get your name listed at the end of every video. So become a Patreon by following the link in the video description. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hello Dave with Down to Earth Astronomy. It's Monday, so let's see what's been going on in Elite and on the channel. Well, Elite, of course, we have the beta running for the January update, mainly a bug fixing patch, but there has been a few things changed in the patch that I wanted to address. One of them, of course, being the changes to mining. I did a video on Saturday where I go into a little bit more depth with what I think it's going to mean for mining. I think this is going to have a bigger impact on mining than many people think, and that's why I decided to make a dedicated video, because otherwise this Hello Dave would be really long. So if you want to see those changes that could potentially change the mining landscape a little bit, there's a video for Saturday. You can go and you can watch that. But I just quickly want to run over some of the headlines from the patch note, and I should say again, this is a beta patch note. It is not the final thing. We're not sure this is actually what's going to happen. That's what's going to go into the game. We'll have to wait and see what comes out after the beta has ended and once we get the actual update. First of all, Frontier has introduced 5 new states that systems can't be in. We know we have like boom and war and civil war and like famine and all those states. And they introduced 5 new ones, one called drought, infrastructure failure, terrorism, natural disaster, and and then the last one, public holiday. I like that a whole system just escaped. Yeah, see you guys, we're going on public holiday. What exactly they're going to affect on the system, and I haven't been in testing these new states on the beta server, but it could be interesting to see what kind of materials from high-grade emissions that will come in those systems. So there's some lists there that needs to be updated, but I'm pretty sure we're going to figure that out probably once it goes live, because I don't want to spend a ton of time testing it on a beta server only for it to be changed when it goes live. So I'm going to wait for that to go live and see how those new states affect especially high-grade emissions. Then they did a quite interesting thing. They implemented a system to prevent the long scanning times when you are scanning planets with the FSS scanner. So right now, if you have a planet and there is some site on the planet, there will be like a scanning icon, and that scanning icon is essentially the servers generating the sites on the planet. And that took a long time. That's something people have been complaining about. So now Frontier has just made a likely, unlikely, or is it very unlikely, or something like that. I can't very like. There's like 3 states that have different percentage tied to them, telling you like how likely is it that there's a site on this planet. Some have been complaining, saying that well, previously you would know if it started that long scan cycles, you would be 100% sure that it was something, but now we have this like chance-based system instead. So some people like it, some people don't, but regardless, it's there on the beta server, and I guess it's something Frontier is testing out. And then they actually fixed one that I've been really annoyed by for a very long time, and that is the fact that you could not search up player names where the commander names where there was an underscore in the name. I have an underscore in my commander name, and that means that people couldn't search up my character, making it a lot more difficult to request invites for private groups and that kind of stuff. So I had to sit and manually search up people. So that being fixed is very welcome for me, at least. And it also seems they're fixing the UI glitch in core mining, where if you've done any wing core mining, you will know that there's a UI glitch where the detonation graph wouldn't show up properly. That seems to have been fixed. I haven't been verifying it, but that seems to be the case. So that would be really nice if that could get fixed. Not that I think core mining is that suited for wings, because you don't really get any extra materials like you do with laser mining. So I'm not really sure how effective wing core mining is going to be, but the fact that the option is there is always nice. Then they installed some air condition in the Dolphin, making the heat dispersion rate better and also increased the heat capacity before the ship begins to take damage. Basically, they made the Dolphin cooler. It runs cooler, it disperses heat easier. So if you have a Dolphin, there's a small buff for you there. More mining fixes. They have done what they call a speculative fix. Like, that means they are not really sure if it works, but they are just trying things at the moment. And this is something we haven't really seen Frontier do before, but I think it's nice that they're doing it now, where they have some things that they're not 100% sure on how to fix. So they say, okay, let's just try this and see if it works. Maybe it does, we're not really sure, but we're going to give it a go and see what happens. But this is a speculative fix to the damage you would get from collector limpets. You will often know if you have been out mining a lot, when you have a collector limpet coming back with fragments, if you're moving to just a little bit, then you will sometimes take damage from the collectors. And if you have many collectors, that damage will add up over time, and in a poorly tanked mining ship, that can actually lead to the shield eventually going down if you're not careful. But they seem to have done, or at least tried to fix that. Again, I haven't been spending too much time on the beta server. There's been too much to do on the live server. But that seemed to have been something they've been trying to fix this time. And then something that I think probably is the one that most people are happy to see being implemented. And that is they have added the ability to rescue crew that were on board a player's ship when the ship is destroyed. This is around the NPC crews, meaning if you have an NPC crew member today and your ship explodes, well, your crew member is gone for good. And a lot of people invest a lot of time in it, and they do that because, well, we all know that crew members, they take a certain cut of your profit, and that's all your profit. Trading, not just combat, everything you do, they take a cut. Missions, everything. And if you buy if you buy a crew member with a high combat rank, then they take a larger cut. But if you take one with a lower rank and train him up yourself, well, the percentage you take is going to be lower compared to if you just went out and bought one straight off the crew lounge. So therefore, there's a lot of people who invest a lot of time in these crew members, training them up. And of course, losing your ship can then, well, means that all that work just goes down the drain. So now you can, just as you can with your ship, you can rebuy it, you can also rehire or rescue your crew members. And I think the law around it is that they have now installed escape pods for the crew members. Why they weren't there in the first place, I don't know. But, well, now at least crew members can be repurchased after your ship has been destroyed, and therefore making them a little bit more of a viable option. I still think they take too much of a cut from the profit you make, but okay. And then we finally begin to see some work on the networking side of Elite. They've done a speculative fix, again, meaning they're not 100% sure where that's going to work, but they're going to try it out. Where when you were fighting a Thargoid Interceptor, you would have an instant split in the middle of combat where a wing would suddenly be divided into two different instances. And that could cause all kinds of weird bugs. Often it would be something like the heart suddenly, you had the graphical heart where it was exerted wouldn't be the one you actually had to shoot at because there was another one on the model that was exerted. And I've even been in cases where we were fighting an interceptor in a wing, and then for some crew members, the rendered model would be of the Thargoid, like where you could see it in-game would be in one location, but the actual model where the shots were coming from would be in another location, but you couldn't see that. And because you couldn't see it, you couldn't target it, because your target would be on the rendered model, and not the actual working model where the Thargoid actually is, meaning basically making it, well, there's an invisible Thargoid shooting at you that you can't see, can't target, can't shoot at, and there is a visible Thargoid that, well, you can shoot at, but all your shots are just going to go straight through it because the model is not actually there. So that's one of the issues. That's many, and they've done a speculative fix on that, trying to fix some of those instant splitting issues. And I think the reason why these kind of things hasn't been fixed before is because Frontier is having a really hard time replicating these things. And I'm not 100% sure how they test it, but I have a sneaky suspicion that what they do is they say, okay, we sit down, two people, same building, same network, and we test it against each other. And again, Elite is P2P. So they will have a good connection. There will be low latency, no issue. And they're not going to be able to reproduce it. But when I'm sitting here and I'm playing and I have one wing member in Australia and one member in the US and one wing member, I don't know where, then we are pretty much spread out so much that latency is obviously going to be an issue. And that's when suddenly the different game clients can't figure out what kind of state they're in, and you get an instant split. So I think this is down to the fact that real world is a lot more complicated than just sitting two computers next to each other on the same network. I'm not sure if that's how Frontier is testing it. I'm not sure if they have machines set up on like the other end of the world so they can test it with longer latency, if they have a method to like introduce artificial latency between the clients or stuff like that. I don't know if they do anything along those lines, but at least now they're beginning to do those speculative fixes. That means we can get commanders in-game that are in different locations, that has different network configurations, then we get longer latencies between wing members, and see if this still occurs. And if it does, well, in many of the cases, they've also implemented additional logging. So they're basically collecting more information about the state of the game client and the state of the game, so that if these things occur again, it's easier. They will get more information, so it's easier for them to figure out what exactly is going on here. Why are these issues being caused? Which I think is a brilliant approach, admitting that okay, we can't replicate it. We don't know what it's causing, so let's just collect as much information as we can about the game client and the state of the game, so that hopefully we can get a little bit more information, and then in the future begin to, well, at least replicate the mistake or the bug, because that is the first step to solving it. If you can't replicate it, it's really difficult to solve. And the last thing I put here on my notes is, of course, the added supply and demand volumes for high-end mining materials. That is the one I did a video on Saturday. And yeah, if you wanna see more my thoughts on that, there's a long video you can go and watch on that topic. And finally, let's just quickly talk about the live stream tomorrow. Usual time, 8 o'clock in-game time, streamed here on YouTube and on Twitch. The exact topic of the live stream, I'm not 100% sure of. I have a few things that I want to do, and we can still go back to Colonia, continue the work out there. Hunting more Thargoids could be interesting. I've also been considering I've been playing a little bit with them here over the weekend, the challenge scenarios that they have in the game. Some of them are pretty challenging. I think we can get a fun live stream out of those if we wanted to give that a go. Practice my combat skill a little bit. I have several other projects that I'm considering that could work well for a live stream. So I'm not 100% sure what will happen. If you have suggestions or anything you would like to see on live stream, well, you're always welcome to put them in the comment section, and I might consider it. But regardless, I hope you'll tune in tomorrow at 8 o'clock in-game time. That's going to be it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Until next time, I will see you guys in space.